Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that affects millions of teenagers, social anxiety. But what is it really? And maybe more importantly, what can we actually do about it? We're going to break down what causes it, what it looks like, and the real proven ways to find a path to recovery.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to figure out what social anxiety actually is. Then, we'll dig into where it comes from. After that, we'll cover the path to recovery, and finally, we'll talk about why building a support system is so important.
Okay, you know that feeling, right? Your heart starts pounding right before you have to give a presentation in class. Or maybe you just dread walking into a crowded cafeteria. We've all been there. But is that just being shy, or could it be something more? Figuring out where that line is, that's the first step, and it's a huge one.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Part 1, what is social anxiety? Let's define the disorder and really look at the impact it has.
So first things first, this is not some rare, fringe issue, not at all. We're talking about 9.1% of teens in the US. That's nearly 1 in 10. Think about that for a second. In an average high school classroom, that could be 2 or 3 kids. That number alone just screams why this conversation is so incredibly important.
So what makes it a disorder? It really boils down to this. It's an intense, and I mean really intense fear that just doesn't go away. It's this persistent dread of being judged or embarrassed in social situations. And here's the kicker. It gets so bad that it actually starts to interfere with everyday life. It makes you avoid things and causes real distress.
So this is a super important distinction to make. How do we tell the difference between just being shy and having social anxiety disorder? Well, think of it this way. Shyness is like a temporary feeling. You get nervous, but you can usually push through it. But SAD, that's a whole different ballgame. It's persistent. We're talking lasting for 6 months or more. And the fear is so powerful it actually stops you from doing things. It gets in the way of school, friendships, the whole shebang.
So what does this actually look and feel like for a teenager? Well, on the inside, it's like a constant storm of worst-case scenario thoughts, just total catastrophizing. And on the outside, you can see it too. We're talking about a racing heart, sweating, shaking, and then there's the avoidance. Suddenly, speaking in class is impossible. Eating in the cafeteria? Forget about it. You start to see friendships shrink and class participation just drop off a cliff.
All right, part 2. Where does this even come from? And the answer, as it often is, well, it's complicated. It's not just one thing. It's usually a mix of what you're born with, the nature part, and what you experience, the nurture part.
So let's talk about the nature piece first. Sometimes it's in your genes. If anxiety runs in your family, you might be more likely to experience it. Also, some kids just have a more cautious, inhibited temperament from a young age. And then there's your cognitive style, basically how your brain is wired. If you tend to be really hard on yourself or have trouble managing emotions, that can be a factor too.
And then, of course, there's nurture, your environment. And man, does this play a huge role. We're talking about everything from parenting styles, maybe being overprotective or super critical, to the insane pressures at school. Think bullying or the stress of having to perform. And we have to talk about social media, right? The constant comparison game, the cyberbullying, it's a minefield.
Okay, let's get to the most important part of this whole conversation, the good news. Because there is a path to recovery. There are proven, evidence-based treatments that really, truly work.
And if you take away one thing about treatment, let it be this: cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. The science on this is crystal clear. It is the absolute gold standard for treating social anxiety in teens. It's not just talk therapy. It's a practical, skills-based approach that gives kids a real toolkit to fight back.
So how does CBT actually work? Well, it's pretty systematic. First, you just learn about anxiety. What it is, why it happens, psychoeducation, they call it. Then you learn to catch those fearful thoughts and challenge them, like, is it really true that everyone is laughing at me? And the real game changer is often what's called graded exposure therapy. It sounds scary, but it's just about facing your fears step by step in a safe way. It helps you build skills and prove to your brain that you can handle it. Now, what about medication? For some teens, especially with more moderate to severe cases, it can be a really helpful tool. We're usually talking about SSRIs. But, and this is a big but, it's not a magic pill. It absolutely requires careful monitoring by a doctor, and it works best when it's combined with the therapy with CBT. The meds can lower the anxiety enough to let the teen really dig in and do the work in therapy.
And yeah, the data backs this up completely. Research shows that for teens who are really struggling, that combined approach, CBT plus an SSRI, is what gets the best results. It's a powerful 1-2 punch against social anxiety.
Okay, so we've talked treatment, but therapy doesn't happen in a bubble, right? Recovery really takes a village. So for this last part, let's talk about building that support system. What's the role for parents, teachers, and even the whole school?
All right, for parents, this can be tricky. You have to walk a fine line. It's so important to validate your teen's fear, to say, I hear you, and that sounds really hard, instead of just, oh, get over it. But at the same time, you can't enable the avoidance. Don't rescue them from every single social event. Your job is to be an empathetic coach, encouraging them, and most importantly, getting them professional help.
Teachers are on the front lines here. They see it every day. The kid who never raises their hand, who avoids group projects. So what can they do? A huge thing is creating low-stakes opportunities to participate. Think small groups instead of a big class presentation. And just as important is communicating with school counselors. They can be a key part of that support team.
And zooming out even further, what can schools do as a whole system? Well, a lot actually. They can implement screening to catch problems early. They can beef up their mental health staff to provide support right there on campus. They can train teachers. Each one of these actions creates another layer in a safety net that can catch kids before they fall.
And this is why it all matters so much. Getting help early isn't just about making the teenage years a little easier. It's about changing a person's entire life trajectory. We're talking about preventing much bigger problems down the road and setting that teen up for a future where they can thrive, not just survive.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. How can we, all of us, create spaces in our schools and in our communities where it's okay to be vulnerable, where asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, but a sign of incredible strength? Because that's the real goal, isn't it? Building a culture that supports everyone. Thanks for digging into this with us.